What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV. Make sure you go to coinmastery.com/invest. Join the newsletter list. Make sure you get all the PDFs, dollar cost averaging, especially if you're just getting started. It'll be some very helpful information for you, all free. And very interesting announcement for, I'll officially announce this probably tomorrow when I get final confirmation. But for San Francisco folks, next week, probably next Thursday, we are going to hopefully have a meetup downtown San Francisco at Coin Mastery HQ. Got a beautiful outdoor roof deck here. So I will let you guys know about that. We'll also do one Los Angeles, hopefully in January, maybe in New York, and then all around as much as I can. But stay tuned. I'm really excited about this, about just getting this started, meeting a lot of you, and having a great time. So cool. Today we're talking about a little bit about Bitcoin. We're talking about Litecoin and Ethereum, obviously, and then I want to walk through a little bit about the state of crypto as it relates to perspectives that we may not see as investors being in the crypto matrix, as I like to think about it. One thing that's really helpful about being in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, is that I get access to and I'm in the room with a lot of people that have very different perspectives than, hey, I'm buying Bitcoin, excuse me, and then I'm going to go over to Bittrex. I'm going to try to rip a scalp trade and make as much money as I can. I think that is a huge majority of what's going on right now, but a lot of the big money sees this very differently. And the future and the state of crypto, I want to talk about a few of those factors. And I think that'll help you as you look at things like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and start thinking about, hey, is this a bubble? Are we parabolic? Is this thing ever, what's really going on here? I think this will help you just get a better understanding of it and make better decisions because of that. And then I want to talk a little bit about what I'm seeing in terms of growth potential of partnerships. And then I want to end it with a little bit about, macro, but more social history. Things that I'm really, this is the thing that I'm really fascinated with. Give you guys some books you can check out if you're interested in this. I personally, you guys all know this, I think that this is the biggest financial revolution and opportunity ever. It probably will be of our entire lifetimes. And not just what's going on right now, they're going parabolic. I mean, the next year, 2 years, it's huge. But I think that one of the big confusions is that, especially through the narrative, is that people think that this is exclusively a financial revolution, right? And if it doesn't succeed in replacing currencies, it's not really a viable thing. My personal take is I think that we're going to look back on this in 10 years and realize that Bitcoin and crypto is much more of a social revolution than anything else. Now, we can get into that, but some of you may find this really interesting. Some of you, whatever, you may just be like, just tell me what to buy. I hear you. It all ties in. It all helps you make better decisions. Cool. So taking a look here at Bitcoin on Coinbase, one interesting thing that's happening, especially with Litecoin, is that you're seeing a lot of people doing attempting to do a lot of arbitrage. A lot of different chat rooms everyone's trying to do this, where Litecoin is trading at a higher price than, say, Bittrex, right? Even right now, it's trading at 1818 on Coinbase. You go over to Bittrex, it's at 1830, right? So you can arbitrage between those two depending on what the price is, and you could potentially make 10, 15, 20 bucks just on the arb. That was really good yesterday when the volatility was high because you get big scalp trades. But that's a tough way to make a lot of money over the long term. It can be kind of a short-term tactic. I've tried to build algorithms that can do this fast. It's hard to do. So if you're looking in to do that, realize that it's the times that the arbitrage is the biggest is typically when the exchanges are down, which makes the arbitrage really difficult. So just anybody who's interested in that. We're looking at Bitcoin today and we're seeing a bit of a sell-off, which is actually, it's kind of nice to see, as weird as it sounds to say. The more of a consolidation we have, in my opinion, the better. I think that you're seeing, there's just so much talk. We've seen such huge parabolic growth that at some point, people not only need to take profits, but there needs to just be a release, an emotional release in the market. And this, you can just see this in the sentiment. You can see this on Twitter. You can see this on CNBC. You can see this on Telegram or wherever you're getting your information from. But there's too many people that feel like we're standing on stilts. And we are. I mean, this growth is literally unprecedented. This has never been seen before. It's bigger than anything. So I think these kind of sell-offs are healthy. I think that this is also really important to remember that when it does go down, it doesn't mean that you necessarily need to do anything. I think it's easy to say, okay, well, Bitcoin's going down. That definitely means that altcoins are going to start going up. I should take my Bitcoin and immediately start hunting for altcoins. And while that can work, right, there's a clear game to play in that sense. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you zoom out and you look at the 1 day and you look at your portfolio, especially if you've been in crypto for more than a couple of months, holding on to your Bitcoin is not a bad idea. It never has been, and it probably will not. It probably won't change anytime soon. So if you're looking at this and thinking, oh, Bitcoin's going to start dipping, I should move it over to altcoins so I can catch the next surge. Look through your trade diary. Think about what you did in the past, because if anything is going to go up, guaranteed, Bitcoin will. That's over the long term. When I say long term, I mean like 2 weeks, right? So I think that's the big thing to keep in mind. This is healthy. I'm glad it's happening. If you're looking at buying the dips, as we all are, this is what you look at, right? Remember this volume. And so we're on the 1 hour right here, just so we can get a little granular. And the volume just hasn't picked up yet. This is all just sell orders. Whether or not that's a couple of addresses, whether or not it's a widespread sell, we don't know. But until this volume gets up to these levels, if you're listening on the podcast, I'm just looking at the last few days when you see these big spikes in volumes, or even on the last few dips where you see this level. That's really where you want to see the volume. That's the ballpark you want it to be in when you want to make a purchase, right? Especially if you're just purchasing for a scalp trade. If you're purchasing for long term, you want it to be the highest volume you can possibly get, because that really signals a deep or a very, very strong level of support that it probably will have a hard time coming back and retesting more than once. So just keeping an eye on this, keeping an eye on the volume as it gets up to the next levels. Maybe we start checking it out, but I think that this is great. It's it's part of the game, part of the reflexivity. So same thing kind of going with Litecoin. I think that Litecoin is getting a lot of the speculation. I don't know why this is on the 5 minute. Let's go back to the 1 hour. And for good reason. I mean, this is completely ridiculous, this run up. And I think that being inside cryptocurrency, inside what I call the matrix. When I say the matrix, I mean that you look at charts, you're checking block portfolio, you're looking at price more than anything else, and you are looking at potential profits as the name of the game. I think that if you look at Litecoin, it can very quickly look like this is way out of whack. But I agree with that. I think that as an investor, this is clear speculative behavior. I mean, this is completely crazy. Whether or not it was people who were just moving over to Litecoin so they could transfer out of the exchanges, or if it's just a massive demand because of Monday's futures news on CNBC. And I mean, it's probably a little bit of all of that. It's never just one thing. But you see a lot of people kind of hating on it. Here's the only thing that I would keep in mind, right? Short of Bitcoin's price being the ultimate driver of everything, realize that so Coinbase signing up ballpark 150,000 people a day. And let's say those 150,000 people, 15,000 of them actually buy some crypto. Before they signed up, they probably didn't know that Litecoin was $5 a year ago or whatever, $3 or whatever. I can't remember last December's price. They don't really know all this. What they know is that when they log in, they're seeing Bitcoin a price and they're seeing Litecoin with a price. And they may see a little bit of that historical graph, but they're seeing the price. And that is still a very, very powerful factor. So while I do think that this 72-hour run is completely ridiculous for the most part, especially since Litecoin is really doesn't have a lot of the same institutional size and rigidity of Bitcoin. There's still a lot to it. There's still a lot of promise for Litecoin to keep going up. So I still like it. And I think that everything is going to it's going to have these pullbacks. It has to. People have to take their profits and what do you call it? Recoup. Similarly with Ethereum, you're seeing a big sell-off. Same thing. The faster it goes up, the sell-off comes. I think it's also really important to look at the Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Let me see if I can pull this up, because this chart is actually a little bit better when you scroll out. Let's look at the 1 day. This chart actually looks a lot healthier than the USD chart does. So in many ways, Ethereum is actually doing pretty well. You can see the volume is starting to pick up on this to drive it up. This is still on the 1 day, not really taking into account the latest, but that's a good sign as it relates to Bitcoin, right? It's already starting to have a little bit of a bounce. I would expect to see this volume start to increase, so it goes. There's just so much demand, guys. I can't stress this enough. The amount of money and attention and demand that's still coming in is astronomical. And I think that right now we're going into the holidays. There's a lot of discussion about it, futures, and there's like a lot still going on, but the impetus to get started in the middle of December, at least in the United States, there's macro forces that make people not want to dive into crypto before the holidays, whatever. Maybe over the holiday break, there'll be more people to sign up, which there probably will. Then January is going to come and it's going to be like, hey, a new year, a new initiative, whatever. So like I said yesterday, like I talked about in some of our groups here, the goal of December might be counterintuitive based on the last few days, but the goal is not to lose any money. It's just be smart. And usually that just means hold on, dollar cost average, just less is more. That's why you don't see me on Twitter throwing out trades all the time, because I know that the market is not like there's certain times to try to make a ton of money, and there's certain times to just recalibrate. So that's my personal opinion, at least. Could eat my words on that, could be wrong, but that's just what I'm doing. Switching over to the altcoin market, like I said, I haven't been trading a whole lot, but yesterday, one thing that was really interesting is Ripple. I own a little bit of Ripple off of a trade. I bought I think it was this right here, as soon as the founder released I've had some earlier, but as soon as the founder released a tweet about Ripple burning all their tokens or putting it in escrow, I bought a bunch and just did a quick scalp trade on that, which is pretty sweet. But yesterday, Ripple pumped like crazy, and I was looking through Twitter, and I was looking through everything to try to find what the news was, and I personally couldn't find it. And I was like, I think that this is not. I think this is just a big pump. I don't think that this is legit. I very well may be eating my words. Now it looks like there's starting to be some sort of, whatever you want to call it, sell-off or whatever. But, it's one of these things where if a pump happens, and even if I can't find the knowledge, there's so many people involved now that the pumps may still go on. I think IOTA is a really good example of that. They kind of had the same, same profile, just kept pumping. News came out, hey, Microsoft, this actually isn't a real partnership or whatever. And the price just kind of went down a little bit, but it wasn't really a big sell-off. The same way Ripple, hey, maybe it's partnering with Alibaba and Amazon and all these things that are coming out or getting listed on Coinbase. These are all rumors. I have no idea if any of this is true. but it's not coming down. It's not like getting dumped yet. And it's just, I think that's really fascinating. There's no thing, unless this is insider info, but it's pretty big. I mean, that's a lot of volume to be pushing for an insider info. And the price is kind of holding. So, maybe that's a good reason. If I don't know, I've learned that it's better not to do anything. And, that's just comes from getting burned a handful of times. But that's just me. I think other people can do this and they can do really well. But I think it's as the markets get more competitive, which they will, from a trading standpoint, you got to be more and more certain over what's going on. Other one, I think that, what was I looking at the other day? I think that might be it actually. I'm going to start next week. Later this week, I'll dig into a couple of these altcoins that I have been looking at, but I've really just been sitting on the sidelines accumulating. Let's talk about a couple of the macro ideas that I think are really interesting. Now, Catherine Hahn is on the Coinbase board. I think she might have been the first board member, actually. She is a lawyer, I guess, federal prosecutor, former federal prosecutor. And what's really interesting is Coinbase is getting very serious about their growth model. And if you've never read Coinbase's original slide deck and what their long-term business plan is, it's really interesting to go check it out. You can go check out Brian Armstrong's Medium posts. I'll see if I can dig it up. But their whole thing is establish Coinbase, get people to buy currencies, which is what they're doing. They'll continue to do. And then the bigger vision is to build like a WeChat for Ethereum. Build a client side. They call it Toshi, right? That's the app they have. You can go download the App Store. It's okay. I think it's hard to use, but they are really ramping up their efforts from a regulatory standpoint. In my opinion, this is what a company would do when they are preparing to get much, much bigger, to expose themselves to new risks, to bring in a lot more money. So they did the custodial services last week, 2 weeks ago, give or take. This is the kind of thing that you are going to start seeing when they want to start releasing new coins. And they're going to start releasing new coins over the next month or two. No, I do not know what those coins are going to be. If I did, I would definitely be very stoked about that. But that's very profitable information. So this is going to happen. But the big thing that they're looking at is regulatory. So if you want to try to speculate on that, keep that in mind. The other thing they're doing is they just added Facebook's head of Messenger. So Coinbase, as it relates to crypto, is going to bring in people that are already working in other companies as integration partners. Are they going to integrate with Facebook? I have no idea. But that's how it works, right? This guy he ran Facebook Messenger, or is the Facebook Messenger guy. So he knows what's up. He knows about payments. He knows about how to do it. But remember, Coinbase's vision is not just to be an exchange. Their vision is to create an app and to get people to use Ethereum and Ethereum ERC20 tokens and products and things like that inside of a mobile experience. It's super important to keep that in mind, because what we see as an exchange in GDAX and where you buy crypto and all that is a stepping stone to the bigger vision of Coinbase. And when you see the bigger vision, which they've publicly announced, you can start to see where they are trying to move crypto. And that, in my opinion, is a very interesting thesis to start to drive your buying decisions on what coins you want to hold, stuff like that. Okay. Similarly, as we approach to next Monday, CME is going to come out with their futures market. And in the meantime, they're starting to, so Interactive Brokers is a trading platform, and they do a lot of the what do you call it? They process a lot of the trading orders. So you got Interactive Brokers, you got TradeStation, you got a few others that all feed the data and that allow these orders to get cleared so you can actually execute the orders on these platforms. And they're coming out with a couple new options that allow people to go short on these futures through those trading platforms. Now, the kicker is that they're making you put up 4 times the money, the margin on your short trade. Meaning if you want to short the market $100,000, you got to put up 400 grand for $500. You got to have $500,000 in your account to short $100,000 worth of contracts on the futures market. What that means is that these people, they know how big the demand is. They know how hard it is, or how easy it is to manipulate the market. And so they're making people put up a ton of money in order to hedge themselves to try to keep things at bay. But what this means for you is over the next 2 weeks or so, the price of Bitcoin is going to see a lot more action, and more importantly, it's going to get a lot more media coverage. I think Bitcoin is still a great purchase. I know that sounds insane to say it, 16,400, but I mean, it's already bumped back up 1,000 points in the last 20 minutes. So when in doubt, just buy Bitcoin. Last thing I'm going to talk about is something that some of you might find interesting. I find this extremely interesting. I think from a generational standpoint, is understanding or taking a step back and looking at what's going on with crypto, with Bitcoin, as it relates to civilization as a whole. And there's a few books that I would really encourage everybody to read. Check out the first two. You definitely should check out. One's called Sapiens and one's called Homo Deus. This was like the sequel, but more of an updated version. And it's relatively dense reading, but it's unbelievable research and thesis development, and just probably one of the best vantage points of who we are as humans, what got us here, what drives us, what trends happened, why they happened. And it gets into a lot of biology, it gets into a lot of micro-sociology, meaning the family units, the communities. And then it also gets into macro. But I would really encourage people to read this. And the reason why is because it explores what it is that drives us to become who we are as a society. And as you learn about the evolution of people, not only over the last millennia, but just over the last 100 years, you'll start to see that there's a lot of patterns, and that Bitcoin and crypto is in many ways just facilitating the change that other things facilitated in years past. Revolutions happened in different ways, and Bitcoin is assuming that role in this way. So I'd encourage you to check these books out. They're really, really, really good. Many of the smartest people I know, these are their favorite books. It's really helpful to read. I think you guys will find it super interesting. If you are interested in this stuff, I'll link it below. The other two books. This book is very, I would say, controversial, because it got rolled into a lot of the political, the U.S. political climate. This is a couple of the top politicians. They swear by this book. So first and foremost, this is not a political statement by any means, but this is an incredibly unique and interesting book. It is a bit of a conspiracy theory, but I do think that it is super provocative in the sense of how history repeats itself. And when you do the research and when you look at how history repeats itself, especially generational history, right, every 70, 80 years, this will change the way that you look at what's happening in our society right now. And it'll change the way you look at what Bitcoin, what Ethereum, what BitChex, what does this all really mean? This book will, at the very least, it will open your eyes to that. I read it a long time ago. I actually just bought it, reread it again this week, and it's just been, it's for all of its faults, because it kind of goes off the deep end in many ways. It's a very powerful concept and very interesting to think about, is how we go through 20-year micro cycles and you go through these 80-year macro cycles. The idea that every 80 years is the length of a life. And so we end up repeating history the same way every 80 years because there's no one there to talk about, hey, I lived during that. It all gets baked into stories or into history books or into folklore that we just assume isn't really like, oh yeah, that was back in like 1840 gold rush. That's so different than this and then that led into Civil War, but that's so different than this, and the Industrial Revolution and World War I. That's different than this, and the Roaring '20s and the Great Depression. But that's it's like, because we don't know those people, right? And there's very few of them who are still alive that really experienced something like the Roaring '20s, biggest bull run in the history of any economy. So very, very fascinating. Lastly, this is one that some people might find this one a little depressing, but I find it super interesting, is this idea of how we are, as a society is creating a world where it's not only all about the individual, but where all choice and all uncertainty and everything is being taken away, and that the hunger for that is getting bigger and bigger as technology evolves. The promise of technology is that it'll solve all of our problems. That's really what the promise is. And this book explores what happens when technology solves all of our problems. And as it relates to crypto and as it relates to why people are buying this stuff, most people, I think, can agree that the majority of it's speculative behavior to make money. But this book gets into what I consider to be the real motives behind why there is such a thirst for speculative behavior right now. And the idea is that, some people think we're going to 1984 type Big Brother where everything's censored. Some people think we're going to Brave New World, right? Aldous Huxley's famous book where everybody is just blissful and peace and nobody wants anything because you have been engineered to be happy all the time. Like I said, this is it's a little out there, but all of these are the kind of books that may seem a little tangential and weird, but these are the books that are going to help you pick the winners. These are the books where when you look at Bitcoin, you start to realize, oh, wow, maybe privacy coins are a big deal, right? Maybe I don't know, it's just looking through any of the coins, you can start to see it through a lens of the macro. Where are people going to actually use this stuff? Where are people going to really, really want to have it? Where are they going to be super excited and passionate about using that particular coin or currency? These books will help understand that sort of psychology, those macro forces that can be very powerful. So this is the kind of stuff that I'm super interested in. So I figured I'd share it. I'll share a lot of finance and trading books as well later this week, but it all kind of ties together. In the meantime, I'm going to get back, watch this volume, and hopefully buy the dips. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.